Hey everybody, how we doing today? Hey, I just wanted to follow up with a little live video. Man, it's hot this morning, it's humid. I done got one shoot here on the front. This is a big old horse. I think I've used him on a video before. His withers, top of his withers are about the top of my head. He's a big old boy, about 17 hands. And big old hunter jumper, thoroughbred horse. He's a real gentle giant though. But I just wanted to encourage y'all to think about what we talked about Sunday. I don't know about y'all, but I sure enjoyed the service Sunday. And I enjoyed our theme about being obedient. And we can all get a little better at being obedient. And I just want to challenge y'all this week. Next Sunday we're going to follow on with obedience and how important it is for us to be obedient to God. You know, we all let him down in some form or fashion. There's times that we should have been more obedient. I mean, that's just a part of life. That's because we're human. But just because we aren't perfect and we don't always obey him like we should always be striving to get better. So I'm going to follow up next Sunday and talk about, there's just 1,000 things we can talk about when it comes to obedience. But I wanted to encourage y'all to read Genesis chapter 22, the earlier verses where God tested Abraham's faith, and yet he was promised to be the father of many nations for a reason. It wasn't because he was of a certain lineage. It wasn't because he was the smartest man on earth. It was because that he obeyed God. If y'all remember, he said, your descendants will be like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. The reason he said that, and he said all that's going to happen simply because you obeyed me. So, our job is to make sure that we do our best to obey the Lord. Next week we'll follow up on Abraham. We may look at Naaman and some different people, but something stuck with me yesterday, hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had several people contact me after church and say, man, I've heard the story about the man preaching to a stump in the river bottom, but it hit me hard yesterday, and it did me too, because you think about that. God spoke to a man, a simple country man, squirrel hunting in the river bottom, and told him to go preach to a stump. And you think, how stupid would that be? And he argued with the Lord. He said, Lord, that's crazy. I'm not going to preach to a stump. There's a big tree, though. I think a wind had knocked the tree down about 10 foot. It was a huge tree. He said, I want you to preach to that stump. And the guy said he argued with the Lord a long time. He said, man, that's crazy. And God wouldn't leave him alone. And that rascal stepped up there and preached to that stump with a shotgun, squirrel hunting. And he obeyed God, preached the gospel to that stump, prayed the sinner's prayer, explained the gospel, and thought, man, that was crazy, Lord, but I did what you said. And man, I just found out about this about a year ago, and it's a powerful testimony. He goes on and maybe preaching a service somewhere, I think, later on, and somebody comes up to him and says, I recognize your voice. And he said, really? Who are you? He said, do you remember sometime back you preached a sermon to a stump in the river bottom when you was squirrel hunting? He said, I sure do. Why? He said, I was sitting on the other side of that stump with a shotgun to my throat, under my jaw, going to take my own life. And you shared the gospel with me. You didn't know I was there. But I give my heart to Jesus on the other side of that stump, and you didn't know I was there. And I thought, golly, man, that impacted me for the rest of my life. So I want to challenge y'all, let's be obedient to the Lord. Now, probably our testimony, it may not ever be that interesting or different, But God speaks to our heart to do things, and we have to do our best to obey Him and follow Him. And so I want to challenge you, Genesis chapter 22, study it this week. Wednesday night we'll be back in church at 7 o'clock. Me and Miss Allison were doing a little series on relationships. We're looking forward to that. But guys, remember, if you're just now checking on, I see a lot of my buddies, a lot of people from Nacogdoches Center, different places logging on. Go back and watch the front of this thing. God told a guy to preach to a stump in a river bottom, and he didn't know, but there was a guy on the other side of that stump about to take his life with a shotgun, commit suicide, and God sent that man to the river bottom to preach to a stump, as stupid as that might have sounded, and yet he reached a soul for Christ, and now that man loves the Lord and lives his life for Christ and is reaching a lot of people with the gospel. So you never know. God's much smarter than us. So I just want you to be obedient to the Lord and know that, God's still using His people. So I just want to encourage you. And I'm looking forward to next Sunday because this is something else I was thinking about, and I'm going to expound on this Sunday. We think about us being obedient. We do need to be very obedient to the Lord. But we need to also pray that other people will be obedient to God. Because we all got someone we love that may not know the Lord yet. That's the key word. We all have someone we love. And I've got family members, and man, God's going to send the right person to people that we're praying for. And our job would be to pray that everybody would be obedient to God's leading and His voice. Just like the man preached to a stump and didn't know he was reaching someone with the gospel. And the same way, we got loved ones, we got friends that we're praying for. And when we're obedient, we reap what we sow. So if we sow obedience, when God puts someone on our heart, we're there for them and we try to be obedient to God, we reap what we sow. God will send people into our loved ones' path. And I'm just thankful that it ain't all up to us, that God is bigger than us and smarter than us. And so our job is simply just to obey Him. And remember when Elijah prayed for rain and it was in a drought? He sent his servant out 6 times to look for anything. He said there's not a cloud in the sky. He could have quit after 4 times, 5 times, or 6 times, but the next time he sent his servant out, servant came back and said, I see a cloud literally the size of a man's hand in the sky. And as a result, the man of God, you know what he said? Get ready. There's going to be a lot of rain. And it took his obedience to go back and check those clouds and check the sky. He said there's a cloud the size of a man's hand, even though that was small in the sky. But he had his expectors out and he was obedient to God. So we're going to look at obedience next week. And just remember, we're always striving to be obedient to the Lord. He's always about using His people. We love y'all. We'll see you Wednesday night for sure. And do your homework. Genesis chapter 22. We'll look how Abraham obeyed the Lord and how awesome it is. I see a lot of our customers signing on here. Before too long, I'm going to have a little drawing with my customers. We have a lot of people that like these caps. And they're JC3, Jasper County Cowboy Church. I'm so thankful for our church. But I'm going to do a drawing for some of my customers and give away some caps and some shirts here in the near future. So, hey, love you guys. I got to get back to work. It's a long day and it's humid. And one thing about it, I have to turn my fan off to do these little sermonettes. So I can definitely say what I need to say and move on. I got to get that fan back rolling, get these finished, go across the road, shoe another and trim 2. And I got a pretty good day today. So love you guys. Hope you have a blessed day. And we're always striving to be obedient to the Lord. Amen.